Okay guys, so my name is Ronan Murdock and this is Leaving Cert Business, and this is really like a summary of all the ratio questions that we're going to look at now. So we're going to do the question here from 2017. So remember again, if this is your first time watching the video, make sure you check over in the other videos beforehand, because you're being sort of thrown into the deep end of this question, and we'll go for it right away. So straight away there guys, for my 6th years, we're on page 254. So my 5th year is page 54, okay? So looking straight away, and this is the breakdown of it. So when this came up, and this is 2017. Now again guys, if you don't have the book with you, you can work off the past papers there in 2017. You'll find the question there, question 6 and the long questions, and we'll go for it now. Now it's broken into, they had first off the calculations guys. Those were 20 marks, but then they also want you to analyse the figures that you got for 25 marks. So overall that year's worth 45 marks out of 400, more than 11% of your paper, okay? So we'll have a go at it now. So if you're looking at it here, this is the figures for equinox. Straight away, kind of what I'd be looking out for there is to make sure there's no sort of real trick questions. Nothing major in it, nice sort of straightforward question in that sense. First thing you can spot there, I suppose, like, yeah, we'll just go through it straight away. So you see this here, calculate the following for equinox limited: net profit margin, current ratio, return on investment, and the debt equity ratio. Okay, that's fine. We'll just jump into it right away. So the first thing here guys, right, if you look here for their net profit. So if I'm looking at the question here, then this company's net profit was €30,000, multiply that by 100, and their sales guys was 200,000, okay? Now your job now, again, make sure you've got your calculator out, so you get 30,400, multiply that by 100, divided by 200,000, and the answer you're going to get there is 15.2%. So I'll go over that again. 30,400 multiplied by 100, press equals on your calculator, divide that figure by 200,000, and you'll get 15.2%. Right, that's the first one done, okay? The next one then, guys, we'll look at our current ratio. So again, remember, it's not the asset test ratio, it's current ratio, really straightforward formula, current assets divided by current liabilities, okay? So if we're looking over the question there, current assets 20,000, current liabilities 16,000, very straightforward there. So 20,000 divided by 16,000, the answer pops up, my calculator is 1.25. I put that to the ratio of 1, and that's our current ratio. And the next one then we have, guys, is our return on investment. So I'm doing return on investment, net profit divided by capital employed. This is where it gets a little bit trickier. So we'll have a look over at the board here, right? Now, there's no figure given to me here for capital employed, okay? You can see it there, it's like nothing down there at all for capital employed. What you guys have to remember is, if they don't give you capital employed, you add up the debt and equity together. So if I'm looking down at this here, I'm like, right, that's issued share capital, that's equity, long-term loans, that's debt, retained earnings, that's equity. I add up the debt and equity, and that's going to give me capital employed. Okay, so we've done it on an earlier video. Your job in the Leaving Cert, if they don't give it to you, make sure you know how to calculate it, okay? So I add the three of these up here. So ordinary shares, long-term loans, and retained earnings. If I had the three of these up here, I'll get 760,000. So 300,000 plus 400,000 plus 60,000 will give me 760,000. Now, don't have space to write it in there underneath, but that's going to be our capital employed. But look, we'll go over here, we'll do in detail here anyway, right? So the first thing there you guys have is the net profit, which was 30,400, and now we add up our capital employed, okay? So our issued share capital was 300,000, our long-term loans was 400,000, and also our retained earnings was 60,000, okay? So a little bit cramped down space, that's fine. So now again, it's 30,400 multiplied by 100, divided by 760,000. Okay, so the answer then, if you guys are using it there in the calculator, it'll be a little bit cramped in here, but the answer that you're going to get with that there, so 30,400 divided by 760,000 will give us, it's 4%, okay? So if you use that in the calculator there, get 30,400 multiplied by 100, press equals, divided by 760,000, and the answer you're going to get is 4%. Okay, brilliant. That's our return on investment, 4%. Now the last one we'll do here is the debt equity ratio, okay? We can jump back to it here again. Remember, our debt equity ratio is going to be our debt, which is our long-term loans. We divide that by our equity. which is our issued share capital and our retained earnings added together. So remember guys, the debt equity ratio, it's the debt, the total amount of money you borrowed versus the equity, total amount of money that the owners invested in, okay? So there's no ideal ratio for it, but you really want it to lower the better, okay? So when the debt equity ratio is below 1, they've lowly geared, and that's a good thing. So we'll go through here now, we'll have a look at it. So we'll jump through the question here. The debt we have there is 400,000, that's our long-term loan, and our issued share capital is 300,000. That's one of our equity, and then retained earnings, the other one, 60,000. Okay, we'll jump over here to the next one, we'll add them up together, 400,000 over 360,000. So you guys using your calculator there, 400,000, divide that by 360,000, the answer that comes up there is 1.1, and you guys put that to the ratio of 1. What that's going to show us there is that's our debt compared to our equity. Okay, that's the calculations done. Remember again guys, before you're finishing this, put yourself in the examiner's position when they're grading it, and make sure, formula, workings, answer. Formula, workings, answer. Once you've got that done, you're in a good position. We'll keep pumping through this though, okay? So we've got our calculations done now. So this is the next part of the question, right? And they've done this a few times, and you really want to be looking out for this, okay? So expect them to use it again. They said here, analyse the profitability and liquidity trends for Equinox Limited. Now, most students in the leavings of that year would have figured out that they've done all the calculations there, so that they've done profitability, liquidity, and gearing, and they'd have analysed here in this part of the question, they'd have discussed the debt equity ratio. You didn't have to do that, okay? So remember, guys, when we're starting off, profitability is gross profit margin, net profit margin, return on investment. Liquidity is your current ratio and your asset ratio, and your gearing is your debt equity ratio. Now, if you're looking up here, guys, they're looking for profitability and liquidity. There's nothing in there about gearing, okay? And they've done that a couple of times now, so just make sure you spot that. No harm if you wrote it in. Well, actually, there is harm if you waste of time, but you didn't lose marks. So, but just, it's time management, so that's what you want to be spotting for, okay? Most students leaving through that year would have just written about the gearing, and they just wouldn't have gotten any marks, and they just wasted precious time. Okay, so kind of like to, what we have there, guys, I want you to compare it to, from one year to the next, okay? So, I've already done it up there, but like, if you're looking at, these are the figures we've just calculated, right? So the first thing there, the profitability, the net profit margin, right? So we just figured out the net profit margin is 15.2%, but the question beforehand, if you look in the question itself, it says in 2015, it was 20.5%, right? So 2015, 20.5%, now in 2016, it's 15.2%. Okay, so what we've seen, guys, is the net profit margin has fallen. Okay, so our job now is to be like, right, well, how can we advise them, what can they do? Well, what they should do in order to improve this is you'd want to say they should seek cheaper raw materials. Okay, that's the first thing. And also they should increase their selling price. Okay, cheaper raw materials, and also raise their selling price. That's, if they did that, they would improve their net profit margin. Okay, so that's the first thing to look out for. Second element of profitability you're looking out for there is the return on investment. Now the return on investment, guys, has also decreased, and it's gone from 8% to 4%. Now this is very, very alarming, and what you'd be looking out for here is the business to be concerned as shareholders may seek a better return on investment elsewhere. So the big one there, guys, you want to mark that, to shareholders, and you'd say they may seek a better return on investment elsewhere. Okay, and that's it there. So shareholders will be looking for better ROI elsewhere. The next one then, guys, your current ratio. Now remember, we did the current ratio. The ideal ratio is 2 to 1, and this business is in trouble now. They've fallen below the ideal ratio, which is 2 to 1. They've fallen to 1.25 to 1. So what we see with this answer, guys, the liquidity has declined. All right. So if you're looking at that there, they were at 2 to 1. Now they're down to 1.25 to 1. Now, what you want to make sure you've explained that there with their liquidity dropping is their suppliers will be very concerned about this. Okay, because it could mean that they'll have difficulty paying their debts as they fall to their short-term debts. So you'd say like this, it'd be for the business themselves, it might find it harder to get stock and credit. Suppliers be concerned, and want to make sure that this business starts shifting slow-moving lines. So they should start selling off stock quicker to get cash in. Okay, so that's the issue there with liquidity. Next question then, if you're looking there at part 2 of the question, should Equinox Limited expand? Now this is where they tested you guys on the the gearing, okay? Because they know that, like, if you're ever looking at expansion, it always boils down to really your gearing. So you want to see like what their debt is compared to their equity. The argument you should make, should Equinox Limited expand? No, okay? Because what we saw, right, if you're looking at it, in 2015, their debt equity ratio was 0.7 to 1, all right? Now in 2016, their debt equity ratio is 1.1 to 1, okay? So what we've seen here, guys, is this company's gearing, their debt equity ratio has increased, okay? And that's going to be very, very bad. Well, that's going to be negative if they're considering expansion. Because no matter what, it doesn't matter how much profit they're making, their debt has grown. When your debt grows, you're going to have to pay more interest, okay? So the big thing you want to mark, looking at that there, that's their debt compared to their equity. And their debt has increased, okay? So what you want to mark inside of that is, should this business expand? No, okay? Their gearing is increasing, their debt is increasing, and as a result of that, they will have higher interest repayments. And explain it to the examiner, make sure you write in the notes, guys, or in your answer there, they already have long-term debt of 400,000, okay? Now fire these in, like if you look over the past market schemes, no coincidence, you'll see all these things built into it. So like, you just make sure you remember all these key words, okay? So no, they're to pay interest regardless of what their profits are, and the more debt, that means they're going to have to pay more interest. So if they want to expand, they'd have to take out more loans, and that will again grow up their interest. So at the moment they don't expand because they're highly geared, okay? So make sure you work that into your answer, okay? They're highly geared, they should not expand, their interest is increasing, and they'll have to make repayments regardless of what their profits are, and that's the way it is. That's what I'd be looking out for. Last question, remember I was chatting about it earlier when we were doing the cash flow forecast. What are the limitations of the ratio analysis, okay? So we've got a few, okay? So like, you want to make sure, it's a really good question to ask again. I love when they put these questions in paper because it's actually testing students on their actual overall understanding. This stuff you'll use in real life. So like when you're looking at any of these ratio analysis, what are the limitations? They want to, we can give them a few, like the first one there is like, assets may not reflect their true value, okay? So like, if I have, let's say if I have my closing stock, I could get that wrong. I could overvalue my stock and we to factor that in. So assets may not reflect their true value. So no guarantee you'll sell the stock. Okay, even if I own business, I'm valuing my assets like my van. No guarantee I'll sell that van. Okay, so that's the first thing you want to make sure you look out for. Also, right, like if you're looking at profit, like let's say your profit's gone up by whatever 10%. You're not factoring in what the rate of inflation was, okay? So if inflation was 6%, that means on everything got 6% more expensive, price went up by 6% that year. It doesn't factor this in, so it ignores inflation, okay? So make sure you build a point around that. It ignores inflation years from one year to the next. The other thing it ignores, guys, is like external market factors. So it doesn't factor in if the economy is in a recession, or it doesn't factor in if the economy's like going through a boom, there's a stage of economic growth. The other thing it also doesn't factor in, guys, it doesn't factor in how competitive the market is. So like if new competitors have entered the market, it's ignoring that. So they're like the sort of external factors, okay? So it ignores if the market's in a recession or external competitors. And then the last one then, it is, the other one you can say then as well, is it ignores accounting policies. So like some businesses like might switch accountant or might have different accounting policies from one year to the next. Again, the ratio analysis will ignore this, okay? It'll ignore different accounting policies. Now I know it's a bit messy there at the end. My advice would be, right, two things, is if you're going over the past papers, you'll see all of this stuff, like down at the marketing schemes, get them examination.ie, you'll see all these keywords built into the marketing schemes, along with those figures. You follow that, you'll nail the question. And for any of my 6th years, just a very, very quick note there, you guys can find, I've thrown a sample answer into the book, guys. You can see it there, it's on page 274 and 275, okay? So just a bit of study in your own time. 274 is calculations, and make sure you do sit down and mark it, because I put ones beside it where you get all your marks here, and then 275, this is in much more detail obviously in the book, okay? If it's 5th years, guys, it's page 74 for this and page 75 for that, okay? But yeah, thanks a million.